Hey guys, so in part one of this video series, we talked about how to model this trophy in Fusion 360, and for the second part of the video series, we'll talk about how to make it using Fusion 360's CAM technology. So in order to make that happen, I need to set up a couple of things, and we'll be running through that in this video. The main thing we got to start off with in getting ready to to actually machine something is we all of a sudden have to start thinking about what it is we're actually machining out of. So one of the things that I'll do to set this thing up is I will actually go and define what are the stock pieces of wood that I'm going to be cutting from. And then I'm going to adapt the model to fit within those stock pieces. We've done a lot of great foundational work already. We have an adaptable model, and so actually that's going to be really easy to do in Fusion. The next thing we got to think about for this particular project is I'm limited by a really small footprint as for where I can machine at one time. And so in addition to defining an explicit stock piece of what I'm going to be machining out of, I also need to be really specific about where I'm starting and where the footprint of my machining paths go. I need to make sure it doesn't cut into my fixtures to make sure that I really understand where I'm starting from. That stuff I'm going to have to be really picky on for this particular project just because of the technology I have. The final thing I'm going to have to worry about for this is just how do I make sure I make the most out of my wood. Wood's expensive, and I want to make sure I minimize my waste. And so I'm going to be making a piece that actually machines the star and the numbers in one piece of wood, and then I'll make the axe in a second piece of wood. And so we'll just have to nest that stuff, and so I'll go into that. So it's going to be a longer video, and yeah, but hopefully, if you guys haven't done something from scratch in Fusion, this will be really insightful because I'm going to be going through this literally step by step by step. So all the painstaking, bloody, terrible details that sometimes get glossed over in quick videos will be out there for all the world to see in this. So hopefully you get a lot out of this video. So let's go ahead and begin. So in the previous video, we took great care to make sure that we could adapt the model as we nailed down what it was I was making and out of what pieces of wood. And so in this case, the stock pieces of wood that I'm using of are going to be 12 inches by 5 inches. And so in the first video, I defined everything in terms of metric system because that's what my CNC is using. And so now that I'm actually going and buying wood in the United States where everything's defined in inches, I'm going to go ahead and just change over my default units just so I can read a little better and see, well, what are these units here? So I'm going to go and look at things in terms of inches, and I'll go back and forth between the two of them as we need. And so the first thing I'm going to do is change my piece so it's going to be the right size. So we're going to adjust this thing from being 140 millimeters. I'm actually going to go down to this is going to be 5 inches in width there. And then the next thing I have is that I am going to change my piece from being a foot. I want to make sure that when I'm machining off these edges, things that there's going to be enough material to take away to make sure I have a good clean cut. So I'm actually going to make it so it's not quite a foot in diameter. I'm actually going to make it so it's really like 11.75 inches. So just a little bit smaller. Um, and then let's go ahead and I'll just go ahead and define a final thing of what piece of stock am I actually machining out of. So I'll actually literally model my stock piece here too. So just using the center point rectangle, this is going to be 12 inches. And this is going to be, again, 5 inches, so it's going to be okay. I got a good clean edge, so I don't really need to define this edge here. It's really good wood, so I'm not even worry about that in this. So I'm going to say it's exactly 5 inches, and I'm going to say that this is going to be 12 inches. We could always add a little bit more or less if we wanted to actually, because there's going to be a little bit of fluctuation, but I think that's going to be good enough because I'm only machining in the center of my piece of wood here, so this is a good edge. So I now have a trophy that is now is something that's machinable, and now I'm going to actually model a stock piece of wood that I'm going to use to remove material from. So I'm going to go and extrude this guy down to U, and we're going to make a new component here. So there's my, I'm going to actually call this guy my stock piece. And one of the things I'm doing now is I'm actually calling things out as components. Like up until now, we've talked about bodies. Fusion differentiates between these. So bodies are geometric concepts that can come together and form shapes. When we talk about actually having bodies within components, components are things that we use to define how they move in an assembly, if whether it's something that's going to be in a parts list or bill of material. that's what we have components in. So you have multiple bodies within a component, but what I find is when I start dealing with actually manufacturing things, I'm dealing in the world of real. And so when I think of real, I think of components. So actually, I'm going to start promoting things to be components. And this is kind of a nice way for me to keep track of, when I'm in my conceptual CAD land, I'm just dealing with bodies and stuff like that. But when I actually get into the like, nope, it's time to start building stuff. Now I'm talking about components. So that's just kind of how I organize my models. That's just an editorial comment and my own philosophy on modeling. You can do as you wish. But so I have this stock piece that's right here. So we're going to call this my trophy. So I'm going to start turning off the pieces that I don't need. Although actually I'm probably going to end up promoting those guys too at some point. But I don't need those right now. I kind of have this nice overlapping space here. And then I can make it so I can see my stock piece. Um, just make it so I can see enough of it. So I'm going to turn down, I'm going to right click on this component and turn down the opacity. And then so that's what I'm going to be machining out of. Let me turn off the apostrophe too. All right, so now we're looking pretty good. The next thing before I go into the cam world is that with this guy, I actually have to do it in 3 different passes. And so where I'm starting from on my machine, I'm going to have to physically move my piece to make these cuts. And so I need to define where 0 is on those. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to create another sketch kind of at the end of like where my start and end points are and things. And so I'm going to project in basically boundaries that are really easy for me to find. So this is going to be an easy edge to find. That's one I don't need to define. But as I start moving in things, this outer edge right here is actually going to be really easy for me to find. So actually, before I cut, I'm actually going to make my next 0 something that's going to be, let me make just a line here. I'm going to make a line. Actually, this guy will be one as I kind of slide this thing left to right. Hopefully this will be a little more obvious what I'm doing as we start to set up the paths. But for now, just bear with me. I am going to project this edge here, and then this edge here, and then I'm going to make a tangency. Say that this guy is going to be tangent to this, and this guy is going to be tangent to this. And actually, this is going to be the point now. So let's trim this. Hit the T button. And I'll trim this guy out. And these little points here are going to be where I'm going to be defining my X movement as I change out for different machining setups. Okay, so I'm going to make things even a little bit more explicit just by making points here and here. That'll be really super handy for stage 1 will be this guy and this cut. Stage 2 will be this guy, and stage 3 will be this guy. Awesome. All right, so let's go ahead and start machining stuff. So I'm going to go into my cam tool, so under setup here cam, and let's start doing stuff. First thing, kind of going left to right in the cam world, you start by doing your setup, and then you do your machining operations, kind of, and then you do your post-processing and your simulations. So we'll start by making a setup. And so here it is a milling operation we're doing. I need to define the work coordinates, and this, so Z is up. This stuff, so the way we do is we actually select this part of the arrow and choose what up would be. So I just pick an edge of my stock piece, and so now the Z is up and down. We hit on the top part of that arrow. We can make it so that is up, and we can kind of click on this guy and move it just kind of to a corner for now. The next thing is that X is going to be the travel that I want for my machine, so I'm going to choose this center guy again, choose this edge right here, and then it kind of moves around, but so we'll just put it back by clicking on that center dot. And then the next thing we got to do actually is make sure that I got the right edge. And so I need to make sure I define the right stock piece. So I'm going to go to the center tab, stock. And rather than using a relative size stock or a fixed size stock, stuff that's just you can automatically make in the cam world, I actually want to define from solid because I like modeling and I already modeled my stock piece. So that's my stock piece there. And you can see it'll just define that outer edge because that's the way it's looking right now. And that's going to be my first 0 origin point to make sure everything is all nicely lined up for me. Okay, now that we've defined our setup, the next thing I can do is start doing my machining operations. And so this is what we call a 2.5D part, and that the Z depth is going to be the same for an entire operation. So I'm actually going to be dealing in this 2D set of features for this entire set of operations I perform. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to do a clearing pass for the star. That's what this first setup's going to be. It's just going to be this star. And so to see things better, I'm going to turn off my stock piece because that's defined. I'm also going to turn off the sketch that I was using for my center points. I don't need them for now. And I'm going to go and do what's called an adaptive clearing. Sometimes before, actually a lot of times before this, in addition to adaptive clearing, you would do some sort of a facing operation to make sure you have a nice flat top face. In my case, I really like this top face. I don't really need to remove material, and it's for all effects and purposes, it's flat. I'm not too worried about it. And since I'm going to be moving this thing anyway, I don't want to deal with like the extra sanding that's going to come with some sort of subtle variations as I have to change where my facing operation is. So I will do facing operations for when I go to make my inserts, but for this guy, I'm actually not going to do a facing operation, but I am going to do adaptive. So the next thing I'm going to do is I am going to go and get one of my tools to do that adaptive clearing. And so I have a set of tools already programmed in for my CNC, and you guys will no doubt have your own libraries. And if you guys are wondering how I did that, it's actually under here under tool libraries. You can see that I'm actually sampling, so I'm only looking at my cloud-based Lake Oswego library that I've set up here. You also can have local libraries that you pull in. If you want to look at all the samples, I mean, so everything, if we just go and turn on everything, you can see there's a much bigger list here. But so the way that you go and make your own library is actually if you go and just kind of make your own pieces. Like if I go and make like just a new flat and say this is 3 flutes, 10. So we'll just use the default here for all this stuff. You create this guy, and then you can actually go and copy that into the cloud library, and then that actually would show up. What's nice about having your own library that's set up in the cloud is as you go to make different documents, or if other people are accessing your project and are going to make something, you guys can have the same common set of tools and you aren't having to go and find them on this big long list. So the other thing you got to do to make a cloud library is if you don't see that option, is you need to go into your preferences and turn it on. So actually under your CAM options, this whole enable cloud libraries, that's a good one to turn on. It'll save you a lot of time. I'm going to go back in. I'm going to make my adaptive clearing pass to remove some of this material. I don't have coolant. So we're going to say I'm going to use my little 6 millimeter guy here from my, actually let's use my 8 actually, see how that looks. And then so that's what I've selected. Next thing is I need to choose the geometry. It's going to be this guy. You choose the one that's lower. And if you've got things like do you want to leave stock if you're going to do a finishing pass? Yeah, you do. How far are you going down? This guy's going down 6. In wood, well, just to show it, it kind of depends on what you want to do. Maybe my maximum depth will be, let's just say we'll go down in 4 millimeter increments, so we can do it in a couple different passes just to kind of show what that would look like. So there we are. We have some adaptive clearing there, and we'll go ahead and right click on the actual on this particular process and say simulate, and we can even look at it. So if you turn on your stock, so if it's looking like this, turn on the stock and you can see the stock piece. And if you see just a bunch of lines, this is how it'll probably look for you for default. One of the things I'll do is I'll actually turn off the alt toolpath and just do a tail, and then we can actually watch, hit the play button, and you can see this thing will burrow down. It'll go in there, and you can speed this up just by dragging this thing over. It goes faster. You can go in reverse. If you go over this middle thing, it's going backwards, and we're turning back time. And like Cher would say. And so now we're going to go all the way through it. I can see that it's doing it at one depth. It's making its cuts and removing material. And if I just want to go all the way down and just say go to the next operation, it'll just show what it'll look like at the end of it. And so that's what the end result looks like. Other information you have in this simulation section is things like statistics here, how long it's going to take. Right now this guy's going to take about 5 minutes for me to do. That's just based on the feed rates, and then I did 2 depths. So yeah, we probably could speed that up. I think we can do it in 1. So I'm going to say let's turn off the multiple depths, because that's not going too deep. I think it'll be all right. All right, so we'll take this guy, and then we'll do our finishing pass next up. I'll say let's do a contour with this guy. I think we just keep using that same piece. Oh, no, I can't use it. Got an error. So let's say that's right, because I used that the minimum radius. So we'll use a 4 millimeter. And then the other error is it's saying it's got there's going to be a collision that's coming in. So that's probably due to the cut-in, these lead-in transitions. So let's actually make it just so it goes straight lead-in. Turn all these guys off. Yeah, so now this just goes straight in, and make that final cut. And then so that'll be our finishing pass. And let's do one more. I'm going to copy and paste in this guy. And I'm going to change, so it's the same parameters for everything, but I'm just going to change the operation, so it's going to be a chamfer. So we're going to add my actual chamfer here. Say U, because will be this top, and I'm going to change the chain so it goes down to this depth instead. And well, actually, it's going to be called out as a chamfer, and with 0, 0, because it's already going to the right depth, but that way it knows it's a chamfer. And it'll be able to adjust where the alignment is to make it so that the right part of the tool hits it. And we'll say do that, and let's see how this guy looks. So I'm going to go and simulate that whole thing, and hit the play button. So sometimes you can see a little bit of the brown sticking through too. So sometimes when I'm simulating these things, I'll turn off the piece that I'm operating from, and so you're just looking totally at the stock piece. There we go. And then I'm going to go ahead and just go all the way to the end, and that's what that guy's going to look like. So that star is looking pretty good. Okay, so now I've got to make my side cut for this guy, and so there's probably some more work we're going to have to do to make this guy happen. So I'm clamping this here and here because it's a pretty wide, actually it's below it. I'm going to have like a little piece that goes along the side here, so I'm going to be clamping it here. So I'm not really worried about cutting into a jig or anything, or a fixture, or in my case it's just a vise. So I can just go cut through this. But when I go to make my choices here, if I do like 2D contour, one of the things we'll see here is if I go and we'll choose our right tool, so we'll pick like let's go back to maybe like that 8mm we were using. If I go and I choose this, it's trying to do the entire length of my of my perimeter, and so I don't want to do that because I can't go that far. So I actually need to explicitly define where my boundary is. So what we'll do here is actually I got to go back out of my model, and we're actually going to make I'll actually make a sketch here actually of I'm going to need to actually define this guy, and I'll need to find this path. So this path actually is something that's going to be critical for both. So what I'll do is actually I can either make a plane at that height and pull things in that way, or I can actually use this super handy project include 3D geometry, and I just kind of click and hold down and I choose this edge, and now I got this guy just kind of hanging out in 3D space. I'm not changing this thing, so it's really easy I don't have to worry about editing. I just need that edge. And so that's actually what I'm going to use. I'm going to turn off that. So there's my line. Let's go back into our cam environment. And I've made a change to my geometry, so everything's going to give this red saying it needs to update my tool paths, even though nothing's really changed, but it's being super cautious. So let's go and we'll do our contour now. And I'll go and now I can choose, I can choose that 8. I'm going to say U. That's now my path. Make sure that this it's going on the right side, right? So we want it to actually go that way. And then we'll go ahead and choose in our middle guide our heights option. We want this actually to go down to the stock bottom. And there's our path. Whoa, pretty cool, huh? Set up there. And then we'll just go and we'll copy this guy again. So I love copy paste in the cam environment. It's so convenient. I'll just go and take this guy, and then we'll go in there, and I'll go back and put that chamfer back in. And in this case, we're actually our heights are going to be it's going to be to my selection. It's going to be back to that height. I actually go choose this out. Selection will be this bottom height right here. Oop. Or actually, sorry, it's going to be to our selected contour to U. Yeah, that's selected contour, and then we'll that'll be our chamfer. Let's go ahead and just right-click, define or generate toolpaths for all of them, and we'll go ahead and simulate this guy, and let's see how this guy looks when we're all done. So I'll turn off this guy, and we'll just go ahead and end a toolpath. I don't know, it looks pretty good to me. What do you think, guys? I think we're ready to go. So we've got one down. All right, now this is where it gets slick. It's like, oh man, now I got to redo all that work again for the other two parts of my, the other two sets of machining paths. And the answer is a resounding no, you don't. Check out how slick this is. So in order to make this next setup, I'm going to use basically the same set of machining operations just by copying the setup. Just copy this guy here and then right-clicking pasting. And then we're just going to redefine the things we need to. So watch this. So I'm going to rename this guy. Actually, this is going to be setup 2. And then we are going to, first off, redefine our origin, because now I'm going to be moving the stock piece. So I will say, take this guy and then move to my new point. This is going to be our, actually you might have to say model, not model origin, model box point. Actually, model stock box points. No. Selected point. Selected point. Choose this guy. So there's our new point. And then we are going to go start redefining things. So this, we're going to use all these same operations. Well, actually, not these guys. We don't need these anymore. I'm going to delete those. But in order to do these same operations, same depths, but just for a new geometry, I'm just going to go in there and say edit, and then just choose a new, hit the X button, get rid of that guy, but keep that guy. Awesome. And then it'll just kind of start thinking. And then we'll edit this guy, and we'll change that, and the new chain will be this inner profile. Love it. And then we'll do the final thing of, let's take this top chain here, this guy, and look at that. We're now ready. Let's go ahead and we'll hit setup. Actually, you know what? Let's simulate the whole thing. I'll do all of them. Do you and you. Simulate. Just go to the end. And now we've got ourselves. Oh man, now we're cooking with gas. Look at that. Now we've got our cut at the top. We've got this guy. We've got this guy. We're just killing it. Final thing. I'm just going to go and we'll just kind of keep going as we were. So I'm going to copy this guy again. Copy. Paste, and now for this we're going to have to go get that same piece of geometry in for this side. It's going to get a little trickier. So we'll go back to our model. Going to go edit this guy and project in this. Going to click and hold down, choose this edge. There we are. So now we've got that side in. Go back to our cam environment. Love it. And then we'll go ahead and, as we did before, right click, edit, change the piece to here. So we got to choose a selected point, that guy, love it. And then we'll go and redefine. This gets a little harder. We're gonna have to use to do this, to remove this material. We're gonna have to use a different tool. So we'll use actually the 4. I think we can use the 4. Let's see how that goes. Take you. Let's see how this goes. Looks good to me so far. Okay. So it's still a little, doesn't like that part. This guy we're probably going to have to use our own custom contour to go and clean out the rest of it. So we'll just go ahead and leave this guy the way it is. I'm not too worried about time. We'll take this guy, then we'll go ahead and redefine we'll use the 3. Because I don't think I can fit in there. So because I designed it to actually think for the 3. Take this guy and choose you. This is our border. You and you. Yeah, there's some stuff it doesn't like there. Okay, try that. Like it. Okay. And then the easy part, the contour. Disable. You. Choose the chain. You, and you. Yep, so there's our chamfer. And then we'll go ahead and just change our, so we can still use the 8 here. And we'll go and choose our, let's use the 8, change the chain to this guy, and do a chamfer. On this guy too. It's going to be on the other side though. So let's go ahead and get rid of the extra stuff that's going to be in here from that didn't get removed by the adaptive clearing. I'm sure there's a setting in adaptive clearing that I haven't found yet that'll get to that stuff, but actually the easiest way I think for me is just to go in and just literally tell it where I want the tool to go. I'll just go and say, hey, do something just kind of like, here to like, here to here, and let's just see what we can remove. So I'll just kind of take this guy, stop my sketch, go back into cam. So I just made a, just added onto that little sketch we have at the end for doing things. And yeah, I'm gonna have to go in and regenerate all my tool paths and stuff here, but we don't have to do that quite yet. But we'll just do this 2D contour again. Go choose your tool. So we'll do it with the 4. Choose this path and this path. We'll say stay on this side, so we might have to pull it in just so it doesn't cut into things. But choose for a height. It's going to go down to a selection of something like, just choose this point down here. Just go down to that, and let's see what it does. One other thing to be careful of is I actually had selected and put it in setup 1. It doesn't want to be in setup 1. It wants to be in setup 3. So make sure it's in the right space. Let's go ahead and regenerate our tool paths for these guys. I'll move this guy right after adaptive. And let's see how all this stuff looks. Here we look. So it is, so I'm still missing a little bit, and it is cutting into my guys, so I gotta, so right there and there, actually let's turn off the trophy. See, I'm not quite right there, so I need to go and adjust that a little bit. Let's just quick do that. I think I can do it just right. Yeah, okay, so model, we'll go pull you back. We'll make it so this thing goes straight down so we don't have that little chip at the edge there, and then we'll move this guy out a little bit. That guy, okay, go back into cam. We're going to change this little loop-de-loop thing that's doing there. That's what's causing that little chip there at the end. So we're going to get rid of the lead out and lead in. Just go in, just chew that stuff up. So that might cause a little bit of splitting and stuff, but I don't, as long as you go slow. We might do it in multiple passes, multiple depths. I think it'll be all right. Let's try that guy. So we'll just do these two together, simulate those, and let's see how that looks. Okay, yeah, and so add that with the contour. Yeah, we've basically got it. So maybe just a little bit extra, maybe one more little path to remove this stuff away, or that's something I could definitely take out of the Dremel too. I mean, that doesn't, this is all stuff I'm gonna pull out there. So yeah, I'll go ahead and skip ahead and not worry about that. I think we're looking pretty good. So the next thing I need to do is I need to set it up so I can get my star and my numbers, and those are going to be their own part. So we're going to go ahead and, again, literally model out what that stock piece would look like. So let's go ahead and sketch our piece, and so the piece that I'm going to be making out of, it's actually going to be the same one for the trophy and the star, and so that's going to, we're just going to put it over here for simplicity's sake. Take it here, go dimension it. It's going to be like 4, actually no, I have to be explicit. It is going to be 4.75 inches, and this guy is going to be 7 inches. Give it a little bit of play on each side. So 475 by 7, and then go ahead and extrude it down to this face. That's going to be the right height. Or we can make it that height as well. Remember, we actually had it, which we have a parameter for height there, this whole insert height. So actually that's what the height should be. This guy right here. It'll be negative. And that's what we're going to be putting our stars and stuff into. So let's go and turn these guys back on. So I got this body here. So this is a stock piece. I'm going to make a component out of them. I'm going to say this is my my insert stock. And just because I can keep track of it, it's a real part. I like that. And actually, these guys are now ready to be real parts, just for my own organizational sanity. So Strophe. Quick name these guys. Okay, so let's copy and paste. Control C, Control V. So now I'm actually making new components here, and these are going to be what I end up machining. So we'll take you and put you in there. See, I'm just going to quick nest out my parts. So here, the one will be somewhere like, I'll just put them on the side here. Can we fit them in there? So like that looks like a good spot for them. So as I'm thinking about it, now we have to start being careful about where the fixture is. So this guy before we weren't that worried about it because I was never in danger of hitting anything. For this guy, the fixture's here, and it's only going to be a little bit above it, but as long as I'm smart about that, I shouldn't hit the bottom. I'm really worried about this side fixture that it's going to be, the vise is going to be clamping it. So I'm actually going to literally model where I don't want to hit. I'm going to say don't machine in here. That's a good little, don't go here. Don't hit that. So let's go back in our cam setting. So I can already tell right here that maybe I want to move that 5. So actually, let's go ahead and just preemptively move that 5. Move these guys to the end so we can see where everything is. Okay, so after moving things around and getting it into the right general spot, that was all done in real time, by the way. Now I'm going to go and create a new setup. And before I go into do that, I want to make sure that my stock piece is in the right place to do a facing operation. So the final thing before going into the cam environment is I'm actually going to move this stock piece here just up a little bit so there's something to take away. So I can do this in the cam environment. I actually like to see what it is I'm taking away. So I'm going to set my pivot point, pull this thing up. We're going to just say go up a millimeter. See, now that there'll be a little bit of space. I'm not worried about the space it's leaving behind because this is all like, it's okay if it's a little bit shorter. I just want to make sure I get a nice flat surface at the top for when this for the numbers to look really nice. So I've moved that up, and now we're going to go to our cam and start creating the setup. Just as we did last time, we just need to define some new points. So we're going to turn off all these points and stuff. I'm going to start off just by making sure I'm using the right solid. That's U. Make sure we've got the right Z. Make sure we got the right X. Put it to the right space, and then get the orientation's correct. So now we've got the right origin. And then our model will go ahead and define that we want U, 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 not U, U, this guy, the 5, the 1, and the 5. Okay, and then for our fixture, we'll choose these because this way, if the tool moves through it, we'll be able to see it as a collision. So we'll define that. We've got our setup. So this will be our last setup. So we'll say, okay, so we should go back and rename this guy. This should be setup 3. This should be setup 4. Keep it tight. Let's go to start adding a facing operation. So there's 2 ways to do a facing operation. We can do it as a 2D face. That's super handy. There's no ability to avoid surfaces though in the 2D face. So we could actually define our own path here as a profile. I think the easier way to do it actually is to use the parallel tool in 3D and check it out. We can go in and just choose our face just the same way we would in the 2D. Go and choose, I got a little 40 millimeter guy. But now what we'll do is we'll go and say avoid these faces here. Don't hit them. Pretty easy. And check it out. We'll go ahead and do this, and it's not going to go through the part. So let's go ahead and take a look at that, what that looks like. So it's moving along, and yeah, nothing goes through. It leaves a nice set of space. One thing it is doing though, as I'm going there, it's jumping up and down. It's pulling off. So I'd like to try and avoid that where it happens. I'd like to choose a set of stuff to make it so that doesn't happen. And so sometimes it's just a matter of going and just trying some different things. The first one is making sure that the heights are correct. So we aren't actually going down into the part. We're just going to that model top because remember we modeled it so that we want to just go down to this face right here. So that's what that model top will do. So we're going to do that and see if that changes anything. I don't think it will. And the next thing we're going to do, so we still have all these it's still raising up off the part. That's what you see with those yellow transitions there. We want it to be more continuous, so maybe we can next bump down the step overs we're using, make it so things operate a little closer. We can also do things like make it so it stays within the machining. It makes sure this guy makes sure the tool containment stays from within the boundary we're choosing rather than outside. So stay within the inside of the boundary. Let's see if that helps. It doesn't like that. says an empty toolpath, so we need to actually do I need to define the models? Let's do that. Let's say actually you're going here. Yeah, so define the model, and now we actually have something that's a lot slicker. Look at that. Just by going and sliding that, defining where it's going. Now everything stays down. That looks a lot better. Yeah, look at that. That's nice. Okay, so we've got our nice parallel facing operation. That's going to look awesome. And now let's go and we'll start doing go back to doing our 2D stuff. So I'll go ahead and for the time being turn off this other stock piece that we have, just to see stuff better. And as recalled last time, we're gonna do our do a set of a profile choices, and then I'm actually not going to go all the way through. I don't want to cut everything out as I'm doing these contours. I would like to do kind of cut out a little bit and then do my chamfer and then cut out the rest, and then we'll cut them out that way. So we'll do it actually as 3 operations. So I'm going to start off with a 2D contour of, we'll use the maybe that 8. Let's see if that fits, because then we'll see real fast if it's going to chew into things. So we can just kind of choose a couple of these guys and see if this fits. So yeah, so we need to indicate a little bit more space between stuff. And actually, if I had been paying attention, I could have seen, like, measuring these minimum distances. You can measure between this stuff and say I only have 7 inches there. This guy's probably a little close. I can go between this guy and this guy. So that's going to be the minimum distance between that. That's actually going to be okay. There's 13. So we need to, if I'm going to use an 8, I need to make it so everything else is probably okay. That little space there, I need to make a little bit more room. Let's see, is that space going to be okay? U to U. That's 13. Yeah, we'll be okay. So let's go and go back into our model and move that guy just a little bit further away from the 1. So I guess we can move the 1. Actually, let's move this 1 all the way over there. So I'll go back into my movement here, choose my 1, move it. Let's move it here. Although then we have to worry about this hitting the piece, but it's not going that deep. Actually, for the cut through, that probably would matter. So actually, I really don't want to go that way. I would like to go maybe a little closer to this guy. Lots to think about. That's going to be a little close there. What am I going to do? Yeah, let's try that. And move you just a little bit down that way. Yeah, we'll move this 5. Okay. 5. U. Cool. So I capture all these movement positions now, and let's go. Have I actually solved the problem? Let's turn off that stock so we aren't getting that white thing. U to U. That distance. Actually, let's show this in millimeters again, because actually the millimeter is what I care about. And move or measure U to U. Yeah, 8.5. Okay, so we're okay. And everything else is looking good. Let's go back. So now we've cleaned it up so it's not going to hit, at least we don't think anyway. Let's go ahead and go back and choose our 2D contour. We'll choose the right tool again. And let's start choosing our profiles. So choose these bottom profiles and some other things to keep track of. Remember, you have to choose which side it's actually going to be moving around. So you don't want it to be on the inside, you want it to be on the outside. So that's super important. So we'll choose these guys. It's looking good. And let's see how this goes, and we'll worry about how deep it goes in a second. So we still get a warning, and it says it's going to cause a collision. The other thing is that we want it to not use a lead-in. This whole lead-in entry about going in from the side and coming down. Just turn that guy off. We just want to go straight down. Just plunge in, because we'll be specific about where we're going. So turn that guy off. And now we've got our profiles, and you can see, yeah, there's some overlap where it's cutting, but we aren't cutting into the piece. So actually, we're doing a really nice job. We've got it, a nice distance there. We're nowhere near our fixture, which we like. That's looking good. So let's next, we don't want to go all the way through or down. So we're going to change the depth. Let's go, the height will be, let's do it in multiple depths. Let's say these things are pretty small. So maybe we'll go down in like 3 mm depths. And then under heights, we'll say that we want that bottom height actually to be from the top, the model top. We'll go down 6. Actually, -6, excuse me. -6. So we'll do 2 passes of that. Going down, and then we could do some other choices here, like kind of where for things like and then the linking of the order of how sorry, under our passes we can choose for order. Do we want to do them all at the same time, or do we want to do them do them all at the same height and then go down to the next one? So we'll just say we can choose things like the order that it happens in, or you can actually preserve the order that you select them, or it'll optimize that way. I'm not too worried about it. So the other thing we could choose is make it so that they stay on the same selection. They call them islands. That's what this order by island is. So basically, as it cuts at one depth, it'll do the both in sequence. So those are some things we can choose to which is their what's cutting what first. And so we've got this guy, and let's just leave that for now. I'll go ahead and just kind of do a bunch of them, and we'll just watch them all at the end. This is bugging me, so I'm just going to generate that toolpath again, just because I don't like seeing the red. Let's go ahead and do our 2D contour for our chamfer. This guy, and we'll choose these heights. So it's kind of hard to see with the material I chose, but just to kind of zoom in, I'm choosing the lower end of these chamfers. And then it will automatically realize it's a chamfer, so it'll choose the chamfer setting. So if you want to do things like offsets, there's actually some good videos on kind of what these values are. I'm just going to leave it at 0. And then I'm going to get that error again because again, just needs to go straight down. So don't do the lead in, lead out. Okay, so there's our chamfer. And then we'll actually copy this contour now to go do the finishing pieces of how far down we want to go. So this guy, we're going to change the heights actually. We're going to make it so it'll be the depth this time is going to be, we're still going to do multiple depths in 3s, but we'll go to the model bottom this time. So we'll go ahead and we'll make it so that we can use rest machining, or we'll just go and just say I want from the stock top -6 because that's where it was last time. Just define it, and we'll just say all the way to the model bottom. That way we're just kind of finishing this guy off. Yeah, and this is where we got to be careful about how high you're going. And do you have cut through space to do this? I don't know. Maybe I'll leave it up to you guys. So I'm going to go in these little tiny depths. We probably go a little bit more, but just to show you these different ways we do it, let's just simulate the whole thing. So we'll turn off the tool path, and we'll just kind of let this guy run. So I'm seeing that there's a whole bunch of different red marks here along the way, so we probably should take a look and see where those collisions are happening. We might have some errors. So let me just fast forward this guy. That's looking great. Yep, I love that. And now we're getting to where there's going to be some troubles. Let's just keep watching for a second. Where are the troubles? All right, so our first one, watch for it. So we're going... Ah, there we are. Look at that. So my tool piece is actually going too deep for that final cut through. We're going down. Furthermore, I'm looking at this stuff. Why is it going that deep? This guy, it's way too deep. Let's just go for our heights. Let's just go to, oh, it's negative. That's why. Model bottom -6. This needs to be 0. Let's see if we still have all those errors. Oh, much better. See, no errors. So rather than destroying my wood piece, I was able to figure out my error before I went out. That makes me happy. So finally, let's go ahead and make the axe cam path. So we can do that by using basically the same setup as we used for the other inserts, just by copying and pasting that setup, and we can keep what we like and we can get rid of what we don't. So the things we got to do to update it is just edit it and make sure you're using the right model. So you aren't using those 8 bodies anymore, you're just using the one, and everything else stays the same. So now we've updated that, and now we're going to choose what do we keep. So the parallels, we like that, so we're gonna keep that one. And then the next thing we're gonna get rid of is this first contour set. We're not gonna use the top space because we're gonna use actually a chamfer at the top. We're gonna use actually a ball to take out this chamfer right here. It's a little big for my chamfer tool, so I need to do it actually as a ball 3D, as a 3D path. And then we'll use the real chamfer though for this path. And then we'll just use the contour to finish it off. So let's edit this contour that's going to be going in the bottom. We'll go ahead and make it so this is using the right edge, and then we'll make it so it's going to use we'll do the same heights for everything. So the heights will be the stock top. We'll actually just start it from the top, and we'll go to the bottom, and we'll just say that we'll do it in some depths of, where's our depths? We'll say our roughing, or our multiple depths, we'll just say we'll go down in 5mm increments. So we'll create there, and we will do our chamfer. In order to do our chamfer, we're going to choose the chains. I don't want to go all the way deep down into this guy, so actually what we're going to do is I will back up a second and go back into our model space, and we'll actually, just like we did before, we'll go and define that path. So I'll show you another way of doing this. Rather than using the 3D model, we can actually do this offset plane. Just go to this depth there, go and create a selection set, and then we'll just use project this time instead of 3D. Include geometry, we'll do just the project button. Just go and pull those guys in. So we'll take you, and actually we'll use our selection sets. We'll just go select body edges. That's an easier way to just kind of make sure you're selecting the right stuff. Way to speed you up. Choose that. This guy. Okay. There we go. All right, I like that. And then we'll take this back edge, and now we've got our profile looking pretty good. We'll stop that sketch. Let's turn back on all of our selections so we get everything we're selecting. Good. Go back into our cam environment, and let's update that chamfer. So let's edit it. So get rid of this chain. We'll just do U. So we got to actually choose all these guys individually. Remember, you got to go on the right side for all of them. It's super duper important. So that's the wrong side, wrong side. Again, wrong side, wrong side. There we go. Okay, and we'll take that, and let's see how that goes. Looking pretty good to me. This guy, not too worried about him. I'm just going to delete him for now. This is the one that had the depths, right? That's the right one. Let's go ahead and turn back on our axe, and we'll add the ball of. So the ball end mill will use a morph spiral. I can use a couple of these, but I like morph spiral. I think it does a really nice job. And I will choose my ball end mill, this guy, and we'll limit it to only these faces here. So zoom in on this guy. So here we'll just make it so choose that guy, and we'll choose. Don't want the whole thing because that'll make a really long, really long process. Choose you and you. Looking good. Let's make sure the right model's chosen. Let's go choose this guy. Yeah, actually, just want the body. Click and hold down, body. That's the model. And then let's avoid these guys again, because we don't, gotta make me look good. Don't hit that fixture. There we go. And so we're still going into something. What's going on there? Let's see, we got chains, the model. Oh, the setup model. Look at this. I'm in the old setup. Oops. Let's put that in. I should have just closed that out. Let's make sure that's in the right space. So one of the ways to avoid it, actually, I should have activated this guy and been in setup 5. I was still creating in setup 4. So let's get out of there. I don't want to. Let's make sure I haven't screwed anything else up. Okay, so those are all looking good. Okay, let's go back and let's regenerate all these guys and see if that fixes it. I think it will. Parallel looks good. Morphed, that looks a lot better so he doesn't have that hump anymore. We got our chamfer. And you know, that chamfer, let's make sure. Actually, I think that's going to be all right. Okay, let's simulate this guy. Let's see what it looks like. So we've got a couple errors here. Collides with collides with fixture. Oh dear. So we got some work to do. Oh, that's just a rapid collision. Okay, so it's just digging right in there. So with a ball, do we want that? Yeah, maybe, maybe not. I think if we have a, well, let's think about it. I'll think about that. Another rapid collision there. And this one, that's not good. We got to deal with that. That 2D contour. That would have been ouch time right there. We definitely need to avoid that. We've got some work to do. The first thing is how do we address the rapid stock engagement? So this error right here, saying that rapid collision with stock, that's something that has to do with the plunge rate it's going in. So if it's actually at a state where it's at its most rapid rate, it's colliding at that rate, and obviously you don't want that. So there's a couple ways to address that. The first one is you can just manually pay attention. So when it starts to hit, slow it down so it doesn't just go slamming in. There's a more elegant way of doing it within software. You can change the plunge rate. Bump that thing way down. Like I put mine down to 50 millimeters a minute. Or we could actually go in there and actually say, rather than saying rapid, preserving my rapid movement, actually just say use a high feed and define it here. So let's bump that down and see if that changes it. So we could just slow it down. So there, let's try this. So if we simulate here, there's no more rapid collision with it because it's going slower. So two ways to do it. You can go manual, watch it, or you can change it there. Now for the other guy, this colliding with the stock issue, we have it's going through this piece. I'm just going to shift where my fixture is. So I can move this. Actually, the more accurate example is actually I should be looking at it this way. I can actually move my fixture further down this way. Or I can make it so I've actually really set, it needs to be exactly right here where the 0 is, because there's only that footprint of where my machine can actually go, but I can actually move the vise. So let's actually do that. We'll move this guy. Let's go back into the model here. So again, I could do this just kind of on my own, just remember to do it, or I can explicitly change it in CAD, you recall. So we'll just move that down a little bit. So there's my movement there, just to kind of show that there was a move where I moved the fixture. I go back into CAM, and let's see if this solves our problems. Okay, I don't see any red. I think we solved it. So with that we've over the course of an hour, we went through all the different ways that we can set up our trophy. So we started by modeling in Fusion, and then we created the CAM paths to make it work. And I hope this was useful for you. I had a lot of fun doing this project, and so I'm hoping to do more of these. If they're helpful, let me know. If they're not, well, you can troll me as well. But I hope you guys have a great time creating your own stuff. I can't wait to see what you make, and have a fantastic afternoon, evening, or day. Take care.